Good morning. It's the 11th of August. Good God. I'm still here in the heat of the summer. Yes, I am. And the air conditioning is on, so I've got to put this robe on, but I've got a heavier, thicker white robe, which I haven't worn in quite a while because it gets dirty so easily and it takes quite a bit to wash it. It's a really heavy, luxurious robe. But I never realized it would be such a pain in the derriere to keep up and keep clean. But I need that with this that's going on right now. But I don't dare shut the air conditioner off. It feels nice and warm out there this morning, but the problem is that it's going to permeate the hide on this rig and get inside here. It's going to be about, well, I guess I'm getting used to it. It's difficult to tolerate. I took the day off yesterday from recording. I didn't plan on doing it. It's just the way it worked out. And I find this morning that I don't have a lot to say, to be quite honest with you. I listened to Max Blumenthal a little bit, and I started to listen to Wesley Swift in one of his old presentations. And he's a very it's a staunch individual. He's very firm in his belief system. And I don't disagree with it by much at all, to be quite frank. But I think there's a little bit more to it. And he's one of those two-seed theory people, along with Bertrand Comparet. And they came up with two seeds that were strictly good and evil. That was all there was to it. One side was good. That would have been Abel, who was replaced by Seth. And the other side was bad. And that was Cain. And Cain was followed by his descendants, the Canaanites. Now, I have been trying to get certain catchphrases out there into the public. I've been doing that on social media. It's kind of like leading from behind. By getting the ideas out there, some people hear those ideas and like them and go with them. In particular, the idea of the restoring the original 13th Amendment, people loved that. And they didn't know where they heard it from. And they were putting it back on my wall on Facebook. And I'm like, I had to ask them, where? And some of the stuff was like, where did you hear that? And they wouldn't be able to understand it. I would say, hey, it's okay. I said, yeah, you got it from me. And they would apologize. I'd say, hey, it's okay. Run with that. Take the idea and go with it. And I listened to this fellow in Africa, Traore. I can't pronounce his name very well, and I apologize. Good-looking young black man, big guy for sure. Looks like he's in good shape. He's a captain, and I don't even know which country he's from, but he's trying to unite Africans to stop the exploitations that are going on. And the amazing thing is that what he's doing is actually establishing a framework for the rest of the world. You see, right now, we're wired up completely, and all of our data here in America goes over to Israel. It gets processed by the Israeli companies. Our government, which is so magnanimous, looking out for our best interests, has engaged the Israelis and Israeli corporations for security here and training of the police and all kinds of stuff, which I'm so grateful for. No, I'm not. But this fellow out of Africa has been speaking up about the Israelis running their spy networks in their civilizations and mapping out all of the wealth, all of the mineral wealth that are in their countries so they can exploit it and make deals for and with the international bankers so they can continue to rule the world. That's what their entire project is. Not only do they want to rule the world, they want to rule the afterlife. That's what all this is about now, is that they are changing the original design, Yahweh's design. They're changing our DNA so that Yahweh and us will be separated even further. They're doing their best to control not only us in this particular life, but in the next life. They want to control us as well. It's really macabre. It's really bizarre. And I realize it sounds like, well, only a madman would think this way, right? No, but I do not remember exactly how they are doing this. But that's what it looks like they're doing, is they're trying to rule over the next life as well. They want immortality for themselves, and they want some of us around to serve them. They don't want all of us around. I've discovered a new channel, MLB, My Lunch Break, and I appreciate what this fellow is bringing to task, what he's revealing, because he's basically showing us that history has been altered drastically, and that these people in the past were not that far back. And the same with their architecture, their buildings, their lands, their structures. And it's just, I mean, it's kind of amazing when you look at the fact that the bad guys have changed history, changed everything up on us, so that, as I told somebody, I was having a discussion, and somebody put on a comment that something I said was suspect, and they said, hence everything on this channel is suspect. And of course I sat there for a minute and I thought, should I cuss them out? Should I do what? Should I do this? Should I remove them? I finally said, what the heck with that? I endorsed their comment, and I actually put down there, yes, everything on this channel is suspect. And it should be suspect. It's not that I want you to take what I say as the wholesale truth, that I'm not inaccurate in anything, that I know it all. No, I do not. And much of what I think I know is built on a bunch of lies and deception anyway. I went to those institutions. I went to public school. I listened to that crap they were feeding us. And you got to remember, Ghislaine Maxwell's father was the man who actually was crafting up the books for education in these United States of America. And so they did a lot of the brainwashing on us. This is not a recent effort. This has been a long time effort. And Americans are so ignorant of the past. So the truth is so remote and so foreign that you can't convince them. It's like, what's that saying? You can fool a man easier than you can convince a man he's been fooled. Nobody wants to admit, I was conned, I was had, I was deceived. Nobody wants to admit that. And quite often people just go along with the con, with the fooling and the deception, because, what's that called? Cognitive dissonance? Yeah. Because they don't want to deal with the cognitive dissonance and having to rework their belief system and all the data they've collected before. Intelligence is described as fluid. When we're younger, it's very fluid, and we soak up things like the sponges we are, the little sponges we are. We just soak up that factual information and regurgitate it. We just spew it back, and that's considered pleasing to our teachers. We learn the stupid stuff they want us to say back because the teachers want to dominate us, and with the rest of society want to tell us what to think, not how to think. They don't want to teach us critical thinking at all. I think I barely got some of that, to be honest with you. I'm busy struggling to exist like most people in America today. People in America wake up every day. I wake up every day. And I'm usually saying prayers. Thank you for another night in relative peace and quiet and a good night's sleep. I didn't wake up that way this morning. My My puppy dog wanted to be lovey-dovey, and she likes to, well, she likes to have her belly rubbed, and she wants to set things up and make sure that she gets loved on pretty firmly in the morning. That's like her favorite time of day. So what could one say? It's a good habit. Start off the day with a chest rub, and with a lot of attention, with some affection. What can I say? My dog loves me. I love my dog. What is happening in Gaza is what will eventually happen in America. I know you'll say, it'll never happen here. Well, right now we have a fellow, and I'm going to talk about him by name, Peter Thiel. I've not met him. I don't want to meet him. My understanding is he's a homosexual fellow, and he's totally working for the machine, working for the beast system. He sits as a co-CEO with a fellow named Karp, I believe is his last name. Guy's got some pretty wild hair, and they are co-CEOs of Palantir. I believe Palantir's headquarters are in Denver, Colorado. And it turns out Palantir's first client, for like the first 5 years of their existence, was just one, the CIA. It appears as though Peter Thiel has somehow or other been behind the funding of J.D. Vance, and Vance is coming up in the political world, not just by funding his education and supporting him over the years and grooming him. These people are groomed today. These leaders that we have were not, self-made. They were groomed. Barack Obama was definitely groomed. All those women that are in offices of power in Europe have been groomed. Most of the men, they've been groomed as well. And they're there because they serve the world domination interests of the world revolution and the Zionists. What bothers me mostly about Peter Thiel is the way he handles himself when he's interviewed. At least we're hearing the truth come from him, and so I describe him as sociopathic rather than a sociopath. However, once you start down that road and you devalue human lives, I don't think you can come back. So what bothers me is in one of the interviews that I watched briefly on YouTube, he was confronted with the fact that his outfit was mining social data, social media, all of the spy systems that they have set up. And every day, they were sending 200 names, 200 profiles, 200 targets, if you will, to Israel. He said in this interview that it didn't bother him that he was sending the 200 names, targets to Israel, and that he wasn't going to judge his client. In other words, that's my client. Client can do no wrong. They do with that what they want. And of course, what they are doing is they're sorting out the 200 most prominent people that are resisting them in the Gaza Strip. That information, the identifications, photos, everything are handed to the IDF, and the IDF goes in and targets them. 200 every day planned murders from the heartland of America. Now, I thought that was a crime, but then I have to remember the entire Bolshevik Revolution was planned from Manhattan, was staged from Manhattan, and the railroad cars that went into Russia, sealed up railroad cars that were carrying, I think, the Jews of the Bronx, and other Yiddish speakers, not real Jews, but Khazarians, fake Jews, Revelations 2939 Jews, those who are actually worshiping the Satans. And I mean, it's kind of incredible because you look at those Hasidic Jews who've got their hair in the curly locks, maybe one on each side, like horns, or just like Pharaoh's son. The Pharaoh's son always wore his head was shaved except for one ponytail out the side of his head. Now, it's my assumption, everything here is suspect, remember that. It's my assumption that the only cat who could run around the country, the only kid, adolescent, who could run around the country with that ponytail was the prince. Therefore, he was marked, and everybody knew, hey, man, you do not want to cross him or his papa. You should go look at that channel, Expedition Bible. The guy doesn't get it all right. He gets most of it right. And he does a good job. And he actually shows how he got into the tomb and saw the mummies of that Pharaoh, the famous Pharaoh that dealt with Moses, and his son, the mummy of his son, the firstborn. Remember, the firstborn died due to that plague? And you can see them both skin blacker than black, very well mummified. I guess those priests or undertakers in Egypt really knew their stuff. And they were both pure black. And you could see that the son, who his father had to bury first, was there and buried fully and properly. And you could see the father. And the amazing thing is that you could see the little blisters, these little explosive, little volcanic-looking blisters from the plagues that they suffered from and died from on their bodies, on both of them. It was a real plague. There's no doubt about it. And these mummies are physical proof of the Bible, of Moses, and of that Pharaoh, and of his son. That wasn't the most amazing thing to me. The most amazing thing to me was the shape of the skull, of the son in particular, and that lock of hair, because I realized that the Hasidic Jews that wear the stovepipe, all black and caps and do the weird dances, and they're hardcore conservatives, supposedly, they all wear that hairstyle, although a lot of them will have a couple of locks, as if they were Pharaoh's son. I still haven't told you the most amazing part. Those of you who have been with me for a while have already heard this, most likely, but maybe you haven't heard it. The skull shapes. They had elongated skulls. They were not massively elongated, like the Paracas skulls that are like twice the size. Or that kid that's alive now that works, I believe, on Facebook. I believe he's somewhere in California. And they nicknamed him Adam. He has an elongated skull as well. And Mr. Rothschild has a somewhat elongated skull. And in The Simpsons, we had some elongated skulls for a reason. That Pharaoh was an alien. Pharaoh was a different species anyway. Maybe it's not alien as in from another planet. Maybe it's alien as in from the Middle Earth or from the outskirts around the Earth. Not the other planets, but on the same body that we occupy as well. And then Richie from Boston, too, has a video he produced 2 months ago. It's very good. It's probably his best video on Bigfoot. And in the video, he showed us the pictures of all those beautiful statues that had no feet, no hands, no heads. These statues were carved at the pinnacle of the artwork of the sculptors. They were very, very well done. Very, very good. But Some of them had hands and arms and stuff, feet broken off, but for the most part, they were sawed off, cut off purposely. And of course, I never put two and two together. And then the other thing is that we have different mathematical systems, different bases. You and I work on a mathematical base of 10. We got 10 digits, 10 fingers. We can count on the 10 fingers. We got, generally speaking, 10 toes, although some of us have 6 toes running around. I know of a woman that worked at a warehouse in Anchorage who would be about my age today, and she had 6 toes in each foot. No, I never saw them, but her lover, boyfriend, told me about those. And I believe that I've heard Oprah's got 6 toes on each foot. I don't know. Everything on here is suspect. Don't hold me to it. Don't. And Richie from Boston pointed out, might these hands, limbs, and heads, the feet, have been cut off from these magnificent statues in order to hide the fact they had 6 digits, 6 fingers, one more finger than what we got on our hands and stuff. Maybe that makes it work. It doesn't quite look right there. Okay. They got 6 of them on each hand. And Richie believes that they're trying to hide the past as my lunch break. That fellow believes they're trying to hide the past as well, and that the past is much closer to us than what we realize. That history has been compressed much more, and those beings were alive and here much more recently than what we realize, and they probably are still alive and here to a very large extent. And we have the base 12 system that came out of Babylon, which makes sense. Where would it come from? It would come from the land of 12 fingers, 12 toes, 12 digits upon which to count, in which to manipulate the world, or support your body and run, and walk. So what it comes down to is that most all of what we have been educated in, what we've been taught, especially atomic theory, is all false. It's not good technology. It's not true. And a lot of what we are told in the churches from the pulpits isn't true either. Now, some people will argue that, Christmas isn't Christmas. He wasn't born then. Some people will. I had one person bring up the fact to me that they used to have a pagan worship about that time, and they would have orgies, and people would get pregnant, and birth would be happening, following September. And for some reason, she believes that the Messiah was born in the springtime. What the springtime has in common with the fall is that there's no snow on the ground, and you have sheep that are out pasturing, and shepherds out pasturing their sheep in the mountains. And we have that fantastic witness of the shepherds being told what had happened, receiving the announcement, the good news. Right now, the world is waking up to the Israeli threat. I don't think we should be calling them Israelis, and we should not be calling that postage stamp of a country Israel. I think the best thing we can call it is the land of Canaan, because it has reverted, it has regressed once again to the land of Canaan, where they like to do blood sacrifices and worship Satan very openly. My understanding is that there are at least 60,000 Satanists worshiping Satan openly in what we call Israel today. And that they like to get out in the city streets at night and have things like Burning Man that, I guess, we have that out in the desert in the West. They like to participate in this stuff that's very, very closely aligned with satanic worship. What people need to realize is that the land of Canaan was named for Cain. And I've got people who want to argue with me about the two seeds. And I don't agree with Bertrand Comparet or Wesley Swift. I think that those are theories and constructs which merit consideration. They definitely have something to say. They definitely have a logical, reasonable, intellectual argument to make. But I was in Alaska, and it was New Year's Day, and I was up on the balcony outside looking at the pine tree and all the melt off of the pine tree. January 1st. I mean, it should be minus 20 degrees, right? Maybe zero at the most, but here it was over 32 degrees. And I looked at the pine tree and I could see some buds on the plants. And I just said, I spoke to them. I don't know if they heard me, but I told them, gee, you've been faked out. This isn't going to go very well because you're going to get frozen again, and these nice fresh buds that you just popped out, they're going to get nipped in the bud. They're going to get frozen. And my buddy calls me up off Facebook, Edwin Kroger, farmer in Ohio, and we're talking. We talked for 2.5 hours. And he's explaining to me these parts of the Bible I didn't understand. And so here I've got a man of wisdom on this phone. I'm going to ask questions. And of course, he's a farmer, so he speaks in real common sense. He makes everything very understandable, more understandable than I make it. And I asked Edwin, well, how do you account for the Middle East? In the middle of this conversation with everything else going on, we talked about what happened to Eve in the garden. I was upset for 2 weeks after that conversation. And I had questions. He said I was a fast learner, and it was like, are you kidding? I've been working on this puzzle since I was 7 years of age, man. And he was helping me. And he told me about the Middle East. And he described it in a way that inspired my two-seed of evil theory. That's the key difference. It's not the theory of good and evil, good versus evil, not that strict dichotomy. It's a little messier. And he told me, how he explained it to me is that you have two groups, independent of each other, that are pretending in the Middle East that they are mortal enemies. And at the highest levels, in secret, they're conspiring and working together against us, America. That's where America is today. We have two seeds of evil. And then I came across another fellow's book, Pawns in the Game, by Admiral William Guy Carr, a Canadian citizen who was in naval intelligence. And he revealed two seeds of evil, if you will, in this book. He said there are two seemingly independent movements on the planet today, which are world revolution, which we tend to call communist revolution, and the other one is Zionist International, the Zionists. And these are two different spears from the same enemy. They're controlled by the same people behind the scenes. And William Guy Carr said towards the end, they will be merging together and become more obvious. But right now, they work independently, so we can't recognize them and don't see them for what they are. And so we have the descendants of two men in the Bible, Esau who took 2 Canaanite women to wife and had children, and then realized he had disobeyed Yahweh. Yahweh had warned them 5 times, do not intermarry with the people of the land. But he did it anyway. And after the first marriage to the first Canaanite woman, Esau saw how much it upset his parents. And he decided to double down on his rebellion against his parents. And he took a second Canaanite woman to wife. It was after that he realized he had violated the directive given by Yahweh not to intermarry with the people of the land. And he also realized that he was outside of the family at that point. He had lost his place in the family. And he repented with great tears. And in spite of the fact that he cried and he was upset with what he had done, he was not forgiven. It was not forgivable. He had created life, hybrid life, between the holy seed, Yahweh's seed, having a family on the earth, and the seed of that individual which wanted to take God's place, become higher than God. The rebel of all, the first rebel, Satan. So we are still mesmerized by these 2 different groups, if you will. We still have not come to realize that these 2 groups are working together against us, but I'm getting ahead of myself. They have spread their satanic seed across the whole planet. It is intermixed with the holy seed, so that you cannot pull out the tares, without ripping out some of the good too. And Yahshua the Messiah told us to wait until the harvest time. Don't try to separate them now. So there's another guy in the Bible. Now, we have got good data in the Bible on Esau. He sold his inheritance for a bowl of red porridge. Red, the word for red being Edom, or Idom, and he became known as Edom after that. It's got the letter E in there, so I tend to say, formal English Edom, but it's really Edom, Edomite, Idumean, or Idumean if you want to pronounce it according to standard English phonetics. Herod the Great was an Idumean. It says that in the New Testament. Do look that up. That's a word, that's the Greek word for Edomite that made it into the Bible. And it's in there for a reason. And remember, Herod the Great didn't want any competition, so he sent his soldiers out with the orders to put every male child aged 2 and under to the sword. Kill them. Of course, the Messiah's family, Joseph had seen in a dream, the angel warned him, hey, pack up and go to Egypt till I let you know it's safe to come back here, because they want to destroy the child. So he left with his family and they went to Egypt with their child, Yeshua. So we have 2 groups today. I keep hemming and hawing. We don't have a lot of data on Ishmael. We have a lot of data on Esau, but not Ishmael. And so Ishmael, we do know that he was born of Hagar, and that he was blessed, and he had 12 sons, just like Israel had 12 sons. His sons became princes, dukes, chieftains as well, and they were blessed. And Esau was okay. Ishmael was okay in his genetics. He was from the proper seed, from the holy seed. There was nothing wrong with him in his genetics. But either Ishmael later in life, or one of Ishmael's children, or one of his grandchildren took a Canaanite woman to wife, a Hittite or a Hivite, one of those people from the promised land, which was the land of Canaan, which it has become, by the way, once again. We need to, for the sake of making ourselves understood, call it the land of Canaan, because those people are doing their best to worship the devils. They're doing blood sacrifice around the planet, inside their country as well, with the Palestinians, and they do it outside as well. And they also do it here in America, controlling us by foisting off on us abortion. I don't know if I'm being very clear. And I'm belaboring it because it's very important for us to understand that these are the two seeds of evil against the holy seed. It is good versus evil. But I need to toss the absolute bomb on you right here, right now. There wasn't one fallen angel that did this to a daughter of men. You see, on Mount Hermon is where in my opinion, the original sin was committed. Remember, it's suspect. You can call the original sin what you want. I don't mind. I think it's important that you know my ideas and other people's ideas and be able and know the terms and be able to discuss them. Know the definition for the terms, so you can discuss those. That's all. You don't have to think like I think. You don't have to believe what I believe. But that is definitely the land of Canaan once again. And they have made the announcement that they're going to go into Gaza. Whoa. And they're going to be using their killdozer. They've taken a bulldozer and armored it up to go in there. And what they want to do is absolutely horrible. A lot of Americans over there, dual citizens, who have taken advantage of the right to return. And they're over there having the time of their lives because they're killing, wounding, maiming, and raping and pillaging and doing stuff to Palestinians they could never do over here to anybody. I don't think. At least not yet, but it may be coming here. Because Palantir is allowed to come up with a list, and Mr. Trump, in his wonderful wisdom, in his big beautiful bill, has given the databases over to Palantir on all of us. Palantir's doing the data mining on us. What do you think they're going to do with that? They're going to identify us and send out their kill teams. Hey, look, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, somewhere, quite a while back, it was said that the government, the CIA, had an asset. Within a mile and a half of everyone in the country, they had an asset. What that meant is that they had somebody that upon their orders would go out and kill some other poor son of a bitch. Americans. That's right. Killing Americans. And if they don't do it, the informants who work for the FBI, who have had a license to kill for quite a while, will do it. There's a guy who was nicknamed the Grim Reaper. He killed at least 80 men, and the reason he got away with it is because he was an FBI informant, and they let him get away with murder. Do you realize that puts blood on the FBI's hands? And of course, Mr. Trump is funding what do I want to call it? It's not a decoy. He's funding the feed, if you will. He's funding the bait to bring in the Palestinians. Food and water offered in line. Just coaxing those people to those places where the IDF hunts them down and kills them. Even that little bitty Amir, who was 10 or 12 years old, who looked like a 6-year-old, who kissed the hand of a retired American soldier, a colonel, who was colonel of the Green Berets at that, kissed his hand. Amir kissed his hand first. And then he kissed the hand of this American, second. And he was grateful because he was in line. He walked for 10 or 11 miles, no shoes on his feet. And he was able to get some food. And then after Amir was somehow gotten away from this American, they killed him. He wasn't even allowed to have that last meal that he stood in line for. They shot him dead. The most humane thing that we could do right now, and the most reasonable thing that we could do under our Constitution, is to say, that's it, Israel. No more money, no more relationship. And not only that, you can keep all those people that have returned there under the right of return who have taken on your citizenship, because we don't want them back anymore. Americans still tolerate the presence of people who have served in the IDF. I don't think we should tolerate them. That Congressman Fine or Finney, whatever the hell his name is, out of Florida, who always wears his IDF shirt in Congress. Talk about being asleep at the wheel. We are asleep at the wheel. And that genocidal stuff that's happening from Denver, Colorado, that's going to be happening here in short order. They're going to be weeding us out, killing us, taking us out, disappearing us. And that statement that I made, which it was said that the CIA had an asset within 1.5 miles of anybody in the country that they wanted to take care of, that was back before the government became as large as it is today. The government is too large. If we could agree upon limited government and restoring the structure our founders gave us and act accordingly, and unite upon that, we could have our country back. Yeah, I think we could. Now, mind you, I don't like having all the Muslims here, and I don't like having all the Jews here. I don't want the descendants of Esau or the descendants of Ishmael here, really. I certainly don't want their structures built here on my lands. But there was freedom of religion established. And it wasn't freedom to be an Islamicist. It wasn't freedom to be a Hinduist or freedom to be a Jew or offshoot of whatever the Jews practice, including that satanic worship that they do underground. It was that there would be no religious test at the federal level, and there would be, because the religious tests were at the state level. Since the states all had religious tests, it was not considered a necessity to specify that in the Constitution. Plus, the states had different religious flavors, if you will, different groups in each place. You know, you had Amish, and you had Quakers in Pennsylvania. You had, there were some Catholics, and sadly there was one Jewish synagogue in the state. Maybe there wasn't a synagogue, but the Jews congregated in Providence, Rhode Island. And they formed a synagogue, and George Washington approved of their presence. And by the way, that's where all the slave ships were harbored up at. That's the harbor, the safe harbor they had in Providence, Rhode Island, while they ran that triangle of running molasses and rum and human slaves. And the ships were not owned by Gentiles, they were owned by Jews. And they were mostly captained by Jews as well. And we had one captain who converted, repented. And I believe he's the one that wrote Amazing Grace, gave us that song. It's very disconcerting to realize how much we've been lied to. and how this country has been used to bring in the New World Order, and how we are being used right now. Genocide planned from our shores. Rebellion, revolutions planned from our shores and launched from our shores. What business do we have doing that in any nation outside of ours? Should we not be loving them as they were our brothers and being respectful, doing proper, honorable, and noble business with them, and mindful of etiquettes and cognizant of the differences in cultures and respectful? I do not mind the Muslims in their own lands. I don't mind them at all in their own lands. I wish they would go back there. But we are in our lands. This is America, foretold of in the book of Genesis. This is the great nation, the nation with the greatest numbers. I believe we take after Manasseh, and I believe Ephraim became Great Britain. But I still have trouble with that. So if you want to reverse it and call it the other way, I'm okay with that. Someday you and I, we'll know the truth, and hopefully we'll be able to agree upon that when the day happens. It's a lot like Noah's flood. Was it universal, worldwide, or was it just local? Of course, then, that depends upon how you view the earth. Is the earth flat, or is it round? The Bible talks about those who live inside the earth, too. Yeah, it does. So do we have life inside the earth and life under the oceans, perhaps even? We just don't know. And we can't go to Antarctica to go exploring things because they don't want us to know. I wish that Americans, and we're waking up, by the way. I just saw a video. The people in Wisconsin were chewing out their representative because he was supporting the genocide in Gaza. And they were fed up with it. And they says, hey, you're not the right guy to represent us anymore. You need to go home. You need to admit that and resign, and let us send somebody there who represents us, because we don't want the genocide of Gaza on our hands. We don't want to support that at all. So, Wisconsin, you got something going for yourselves. Big cheese, right? I know. I like to tease people. What? You mean there's another football team besides the New England Patriots? Yeah, I liked them when I was younger. My dad liked the team. And, of course, Boston Red Sox. Which team are you on? Are you going to abide by what the Bible says? Or are you going to abide by what preachers who have been maligned and brainwashed in the seminaries tell you? Are you going to believe these preachers that you have to support Israel in order to be blessed? And that's not Israel, by the way. You and I, we are Israel here today. We're the holy seed. We are the real deal. We are not Gentiles grafted in by grace, no matter how much those lying pastors claim that's the way it is. I don't believe that. I think we need to wake up to our actual nature and origins. And we should read the Bible and mine it for all the wisdom we can garner from it, and live by all the blessings that having such wisdom gives us. My hat goes off, I guess I should say my beret goes off to that captain in Africa who's standing up for Africans and his people. He's a young man. I hope he's not going to be easily corrupted. That seems to happen to Africans quite a bit, and they produce a lot of dictators. His English is impeccable. The way he expresses himself, he's a really good orator, and he's a good leader. And he set the example not just for his continent of Africa, but for us in North America. He's showing us how it needs to be done. He's revealing the Israelis for the spy stuff that they're doing and the way that they exploit the locals, just like the way they've exploited us in America. I mean, we could learn something from him. He shows us it's their communication systems, their data systems that are being used to map out the booty that they can rob us of, how they can steal from us, how they can enslave us. And believe me, America is the land of the slave. We are enslaved. It's a slavery system. They've got us locked in, worried about Social Security or social insurance, that the Republicans are going to take it away from us. Well, the fact is the Republicans and the Democrats took it away from us to a large extent, because our checks at this point from that investment should be much, much larger. But they set up a system of frauds and thefts so they can rob it. They steal it from you and I. That's right. They sell our birth certificates on the stock market. And not only that, they've got this whole set of stuff set up in the back rooms. When you go to court, the court makes more money by charging you off the central trust fund that the government has set up for you that you're not allowed to know about. And if the government keeps on, oh yeah, it's just a sweet dog. It's got to greet Justin coming up here. I'm glad she's getting to be better around people. That's one of the good things about having been here for so long. I know I'm here and I got a lesson to learn, and I think the lesson is that I need to give up on the idea of being able to go down the road reliably and safely in such a big, beautiful rig, because it costs too much to maintain. There's too much that can go wrong, and there are very few people that actually have the knowledge to fix it properly. And that's where I am right now. It's broke down because the people working on it did not know how to wire it up again. The fellow who took it apart in hurry and haste. He failed to take pictures of it, and he doesn't remember it, or he's lied about it. And so as a result, I'm dead in the water until I can find the expert. And either they're going to have to hire him, or I'm going to have to hire him. So I may be stuck wading through this even more, which I just can't believe. Man, am I going to enjoy my freedom when I get back on the road. And I don't know if I can get this rig in the shape necessary so I can rely upon it and depend upon it. And I'm getting older, and I do not need the stress emotionally, spiritually, that this puts on me at this point. I need to be able to take a nap during the day and not worry about things. I need to be able to conserve my energies and focus on cleaning my own house and taking care of myself. Cooking and cleaning takes a lot of energy, and I am being reduced to a simple household. And I like that, and I like the fact that it's small enough that I think I can manage it. I'm not real sure at this point, to be honest with you. The dog has been outside for quite a while. I have had another bout of gout. I've got a gout attack. My foot is swollen up. I've got to go take the medicines that I have on hand. I don't want to go back to the doctor's office and pay a copay. I probably should, but it takes too damn long. And I got the medicines handy from the last time. So I'm going to take them. I don't like taking the steroids, because steroids affect me. They turn me into a bit of a son of a bitch, and maybe that's what I need to do right now to get things motivated here so I can get out of here. And so I can complete some other tasks, which are fighting, and I don't like fighting much. But the other problem is that I take the painkillers, the opiates, and those disinhibit me. And it's a problem getting disinhibited at the same time you're being aggravated. At the same time, You're verging on violence, so to speak. You're disinhibited, so you don't check yourself as much. Bad combination. So I think I'm going to not take any more of the opiates. I took one yesterday, and I remember a year ago when I took this stuff. It was a bad combination. Turned me into a son of a bitch. I wasn't inhibiting myself very much. I wasn't being selective in how I expressed myself. In other words, I was too close on being offensive and becoming a troublemaker. I think I've explained to you that I see there's two seeds of evil. That being through Ishmael. And by the way, there is a passage describing Ishmael's character in the Bible, in that his hand will be against every man and every man's hand will be against him, which is the clearest indicator of a troublemaker that we have. But we do not have in the Bible the fact that the Ishmaelites intermarried with the Canaanites. That's not explicitly stated in the Bible, and I point that out because it's a limitation, and I want to be honest and fair about it. On the other hand, Esau, we have it in the Bible. He took 3 women to wife in the Bible that we know of. The first 2 were not approved. They were outside of the family. They were the people of the land, the Canaanites, the people worshiping Moloch and the Baals and doing the kiddie sacrifice, and they did a lot of bad stuff. Then he took a woman to wife who was acceptable, approved, but it didn't do him any good. We also know that he did not value his inheritance, and he sold it for a bowl of red porridge. Edom is the word for red. That's how he became known as Edom. And we also know from the Bible that Jacob would come underneath Esau's yoke at some point. That has happened. We are under Esau, Edom's yoke today. It's a red government in the United States. It is a communist system. We have all 10 planks of the Communist Party fully in effect, have been in effect in this country for quite a while. We have protected and we have swaddled the communists around the world so they can take over from the other peoples. China would never have turned red communist, but we stopped Chiang Kai-shek from crossing the strait and invading China as he planned and was armed up to do, and taking it back away from them again. And the peace was set up, at the Treaty of Versailles, so we ended up with World War II once again. And World War II was set up so that the communists could expand and a large percentage of the Earth's population would be communized against the will of the American people. Even those settling that thing didn't want that. Even our leaders didn't want that, but the Jewish Zionists, I should say, handlers, wanted it. And they made that stuff happen. That's what's happened the whole time. We've had presidents murdered. Some people think, no, they just died in office. No, they were murdered. President McKinley was murdered to put forth the Zionist objective. They've been doing this to us for a long time. We should figure out how to handle this. We should handle it. We should rise up and take the power back and throw those bastards out. We owe it to the rest of the world to fight here among ourselves and to give them the republic back again, in which the republic doesn't meddle across the world under false pretenses. Oh, I'm a victim. He hit me. I'm sorry, I'm back to my childhood traumas. Yeah, my sister would claim that I hit her. I didn't hit her. She screamed and was beating on me. She started the rest of them. Led the way so they would all beat on me. Oh, it was a pisser of a position. It was no fun. Women, I'm sorry. I'm wounded. I'm revealing that to you. I'm being honest about it. It wasn't a really good childhood for me. I guess in some ways it was, so that I can accept my humble position today, and so that I can at least, I have to be very honest with you in order so that I might be able to give you the information that you need so that you can become better than I am, so that you can have better lives, so that your families will be better off than my family, which is disappearing from the face of the earth. It was run in a non-biblical fashion, and as a direct result of that, we're not going to be existing anymore. This branch of the Kents is disappearing. I don't like saying that. And of course, I'd like to continue it, but I'm faced with a problem. I like talking with women of my own age. Yeah, have the best conversations with them. Not that they don't get into my face too much sometimes, but have the best conversations with them. But I'm not going to pair off with one of them. They can't give me children. They can't produce more Kents. And of course, those that I look at today who can produce are so stupid young compared to me that it is perverted. I mean, let's face it. I'm no longer daddy or papa. I'm grandpa. Yeah, I know that. I know that. Can I not find a 24-year-old woman attractive? Well, certainly I can. But when you work it out and do the math, that's about a third of my age. It's not half my age, it's a third of my age. It's not very healthy to have that much of an age gap. It's not healthy at all. And even some of the 40-year-olds complain, or even some of the 50 and 60-year-olds complain, because I'm so old, I'm too old. Man. All I know is that the women are not the weaker of the species. The female is not the weaker. The female has nerves of strength, has extra capacities given to her for the purposes of motherhood and survival as well. But I don't think they were designed to do it alone, and I don't think I was designed. I don't think we men were designed to do it alone. But that's the way it is. I do not like that. It was so nice to have a couple of good conversations this weekend. My dad was very depressed one time when I talked to him during the latter years of his life. What was going on? He says, everybody's dying. My friends are passing away. He says, I'm losing them. I'm losing everyone. And he talked like you would not believe. It was really kind of funny. You know, we always say women yap, women talk, right? Of course, my mother would make fun of my dad because he was talking up so much with these people that we had just met, or with the other guys or something. He could talk. That's kind of funny, I think. I hope you'll have a nice day. I hope you'll read your Bibles. I hope you'll give me a thumbs up. Maybe leave a comment. If you can support whatever I say with Scripture, or support the opposite or something different than what I say with Scripture, I'm okay with it. We need to talk. We do need to be able to talk about this stuff. Remember, the Messiah said, where two or more are gathered in my name, there I will be. When two or more of us Bible readers, believers, gather together and talk, the Holy Spirit's happening, baby. Those are the best conversations of my days, of my life. I can't wait to get back on the road again and visit my friends and have those conversations once again. But my big fear is it might be kind of like going home. You can never go home again once you've left. May Yahweh bless you.